Okay, this video is going to go along with Chapter 13, Section 1, talking about consumer and business credit. A lot of really good reading information is in this chapter. A lot of good terminology that you will need. Please read through it carefully, especially on some of the graphs and chart where they're talking about bank credit card statements and all of the paperwork that they give you and the explanations. That really would help to go through and understand that as a consumer. The first section they talk about on our homework is simply calculating annual percentage rate and finance charge. And the lucky thing for us is it's pretty straightforward in the sense that all they're doing here is taking the year or the yearly annual percentage rate and getting the monthly by simply dividing it by 12. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So 12 divided by 12 is 1. Okay, and then for number 4, we can just do all these at once since we're talking about that. If we have 1.75 as our monthly, we just then would be backtrack or do it in reverse, then to get 21% for number 4 for the APR. So it's just either multiply or dividing by 12 depending on what they're asking for in the question. So once they have that rate, so 1.5%, we change that into a decimal, and we would multiply it by the previous balance to get our finance charge of, they rounded of course up to 152. So then in order to finish our column, then we would take our 2.52, we add it to our previous balance. Okay, we made some additional purchases, so we would add those to our outstanding debt, plus the 252, plus 167. Okay, but we paid some, so we made a payment, $50, and we would get our new balance to start our account for the next month. And we're going to pay a finance charge on anything that's still outstanding. Okay, so let's do another one of those. We had a previous balance of $35. Monthly is going to be 1%, so we change that to a decimal, 0.01. So we'd have 35 times 0.01 equals 35 cents. Okay, we're going to add that to our previous balance plus any additional purchases, and subtract what we did as a payment, and we would have a new balance then of $146.75. Pretty straightforward stuff here. So let's just do one more. Number 4, we're going to change this to a decimal by 0.0175. Trying to write around the calculator there, so we have 2390 times 0.0175. We're going to get a finance charge of $41.83. Okay, because we're going to round that up always. So let's just clear that out now since we have to start again. Plus our new finance charge, plus any purchases, subtract any payments. Okay, so continuing a balance really starts to add up. If you're paying $40 to $50 a month interest, that starts racking up pretty good, $500-600 a month, or excuse me, a year on finance charge. You could have spent that somewhere else by keeping your balance paid off. Okay, let's see how this would be in a rolling account. This is like a number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Basically, they're just as a revolving account. You're going to start with your previous month's balance. Your finance charge, they listed in the text as 21%. Well, divide that by 12, you get 1.75. And of course, moving that over to create a decimal is what we're going to multiply by. So, as we're doing this, we would have 560 times 0.0175 equals 980. So our finance charge was 980. I'm going to add that to our previous month's balance. Okay, and we're going to add our purchases and subtract our payments. Okay, so our end of the month balance is $636.17. Now that goes then to start our previous month. So that goes now down here on this line to start our next set of calculations. So we do the same thing. So we now have this. We're going to times that now by our finance charge for our unpaid balance. Okay, so now we have 1113. So I'm going to clear that out now. So we have 636.17 plus 1113 plus our purchases minus our payments. And then that goes down to start our next month, and we just keep going. Okay, multiplying then by the 0.0175 to get our finance charge, adding our purchases, subtracting our payments, and getting a new balance, and it just keeps going. So that's how that line works. Now it helps you out with a couple of these because this is 8, 9, and 10, because you're going to have to, since you're doing the odds of 9 and 11, you're going to need some of this information, so you almost have to do the whole thing. So just have to kind of go slow and easy, and it's pretty straightforward. You just have to keep your calculations straight. Okay. Numbers 13 and 14 are asking you to calculate the average daily balance for October, in this case of 14, for a revolving credit account, the previous month's balance of 140. Now they're going to do this on a daily basis. Here we were just kind of doing it on a monthly up above, but now they're going to calculate each day. So the first part of the exercise is we have to figure out the daily balance. Now the exercise starts with October 3rd, but we had an unpaid balance of 140. So on October 1st and 2nd, so for those 2 days, we had an unpaid balance of 140. Now you notice in the text how you do the daily balance is you times the number of days by the unpaid balance. So that's going to give us 280 over here. Okay? Well, between October 3 and October 7, we're going to have 4 days then for that cash advance. So we're going to add that to our daily unpaid balance because we got that advance. So we're going to add another. Let's just go do the unpaid balance first. I think that'll speed us up there. So then between October 7th and 10th is 3 days. And we subtracted that because we got a payment. So we're subtracting it from our daily balance. So now we're down to 115. Okay? So then between 10 and 16, we have 6 days of that purchase. Okay? So we're going to add that. So that gives us 141.69 because we add the 26.69 to the 115. So then we have between 16 and 25, we have 9 days of the credit because we are now having less balance because we got return something or they accredited our account. So that means that it's going to subtract. So we're down to 101.69. And then between the 25 and the 31st, then we're going to have total of 6 days then for the purchase price. So our total balance then will be 224.39 when we add this onto that. Okay. Okay, so our end of our month then is the 31st. I think you'd actually end up having 7 days because you count 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So that actually gives us 7 days then on the purchase price. So to get to your average daily balance, you're just multiplying the unpaid balance by the number of days that you have. So as we're going clear across, we have 4 times 190, and again, you would just do that on the calculator. So you'd have 760. And 3 times 115 is going to be 345. Some of these you might just be able to do in your head. This one you probably can. 6 times 140, 169. It's going to be 850, 14. 9 times the 101.69, 915, 21. And last but not least, you do the 7 times the 224.39, gives us 1,570.73. And now we're going to total all those up. And again, this is going to be a calculator page. You just simply add these all up. When we get all done, we're going to get 08. Looks like 1274. Okay? So now we have that number. In order to get your average daily balance, then you're going to take that number and you're going to divide by 31, because that's the number of days in the month. So again, you're just back to calculator. So you got 4721.08, and you're going to divide by 31. Pretty straightforward. So your average daily balance then is going to be 152.29. I'm going to let you round down that second 2 there. Okay? And that's what you're going to pay your interest on, because that's your average daily balance. All right. It's just a lot of little calculations on these, finding the number of days, multiplying through, getting the total, and then once you get the total, it's just dividing by the number of days in the month. Remember which months have 30, which have 31, depending on, of course, the month that you're doing. So have fun with those.